Hello and welcome to this video all about the politicization of the civil service. As we all know, there has been tensions between the government and civil servants over recent years, and we have seen a few members of government resign following clashes with civil servants over their handling of different issues, the most recent being the resignation of former Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab. But, now the government's own advisor on the civil service, Conservative peer and former Cabinet Office Minister Francis Maude, is suggesting that radical plans be put in place to allow ministers greater powers to appoint their own civil servants, including some with overt political affiliations. As Maude suggests, a more robust culture and attitude needs to be adopted in order to prevent more cases like Raab's from occurring in the future. For example, in France, permanent civil servants often have overt political affiliations and it causes few problems. Maude also suggests that external auditing of advice given by civil servants should be conducted by qualified outsiders, with the results published, in order to reward those who perform best. This has been a cause for deep alarm across Whitehall, and a source of fear for civil servants that the Conservatives will begin to turn their fire on them in the lead up to a general election next year. Through his interviews, ex-senior civil servant Simon MacDonald has stated there is no evidence of civil service activism or a separate civil service agenda. The issue is behavior of the ministers themselves. So, how will the government respond to Francis Maude's suggestions? And what shift in the tensions between the government and civil servants will we see take place? We'll dive deeper into this issue and take a closer look at what these changes and reforms might actually mean for the civil service. Let's begin first of all by understanding the current state of these tensions between the government and civil servants. The tensions between the need for conservative members of government to drive policy forward in order to deliver their political objectives, and the independent nature of civil servants who serve them is always on a knife edge. When the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab resigned, it highlighted an underlying issue that needed to be addressed. Raab was forced to quit the cabinet after an unofficial inquiry found he had engaged in abuse or misuse of power. He had undermined, insulted and humiliated staff. While this might be seen as a normal course of action to some, it leads to a larger problem, in which other civil servants are encouraged to make claims against conservative ministers in order to gain a political scalp. This has been a cause for deep alarm for both sides of the party. That's why Francis Maude recommended a more robust attitude and culture from all parties, with less groupthink and more open to rugged disagreement, and applications from both overt and independent political affiliations not only being allowed but encouraged. This is why Francis believes that only radical change, learning from the examples of countries such as Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, will prevent more crises breaking out between ministers and civil servants. Let's take a look at the kinds of external auditing systems that Francis Maude suggests should be put in place. He suggests that regular external audits should be conducted by qualified outsiders, and the results of these be published openly. This would reward officials who perform best, while at the same time providing a stimulus to those that need to improve, ensuring that the civil service remains impartial and is able to deliver the best advice possible. Additionally, a confidential whistleblowing system should be set up so that any concerns about bias or the politicization of an issue can be addressed promptly and investigated accordingly, with those involved held accountable for their actions. Now let's take a look at what has been happening since the suggestion of this new plan, one that would allow more of a political influence in civil service decisions. The government's own advisor on the civil service said that cabinet ministers have already been granted a greater say in the selection of civil servants, but that if Maude were to extend the reforms any further down the scale it would be incendiary and would threaten the concept of an independent civil service. This has made many in Whitehall fearful that consider the civil service will take the hit of any Brexit or policy failings. They fear that as a result of the Raab case, ministers will be emboldened and given more power when it comes to the political appointments of civil servants, and that other civil servants could be encouraged to claim what they are calling a Tory scalp in order to gain an advantage. So, what kind of reforms should we be expecting to be implemented if the Conservatives maintain control of power into 2021? We may well see more power granted to ministers, allowing them to appoint their own staff, whether independently politically associated or not, to give them the support they need to deliver on policy. It is definitely something we need to keep an eye on in the coming weeks and months as the general election nears, but whatever the outcome, it's clear that the government needs to keep an open mind about the reforms and changes it's offering in order to prevent more tensions and clashes between the civil service and government. We should ensure that a culture of openness and support is maintained, in order to ensure a strong, mutually beneficial relationship between government and civil servants. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please share it with friends. We'll see you soon.